If you want to get more visibility for your collection drops or your holiday sales, you must have a pre-launch strategy. Not sure what a pre-launch strategy is? Well, make sure that you listen to this episode where I interview Brenna McGowan. She's a copywriter and a pre-launch strategist as she talks about how to set up your collections to sell and get more visibility this holiday season. Before I dive into the episode, let me introduce myself. I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy. I host this podcast called Thrive by Design, and I also wrote a book called The Desired Brand Effect: Stand Out in a Saturated Market with a Timeless Jewelry Brand. I help independent jewelry designers launch, grow, and scale successful 6- and 7-figure businesses through courses, coaching, and consulting. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the show notes. There are more information right there. And if you're enjoying this channel and you like this episode, make sure that you subscribe to our channel for more jewelry business tips. You like this video and you share it with your friends, and click that little notification bell so you know when we release a new video. And let's dive into this episode with Brenna. She is amazing. You're gonna love what she has to teach you all about holiday sales, visibility, and pre-launch strategy for your product or jewelry-based business. I wanted to welcome my good friend, Brenna McGowan, to the show. I'm so excited to have you here, Brenna.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Brenna is a copywriter, and she also was acting as our fractional CMO for a while over here at Flourish and Thrive for about 6 months as we were hiring a director of marketing. And I'm super excited to have Brenna on the show because she's amazing with pre-launch strategy, which is what we're going to be talking about, all about holiday sales visibility and how to use a pre-launch strategy to get more exposure. And this also, if you're thinking like, what's a pre-launch? We're going to get into that. And yes, it works for product-based businesses too. So Brenna, welcome again. And I just want to get straight to it. Tell us a little bit about your background and your history and why you think pre-launch strategy is important.
Yes. Well, I'll give you the short story. I started my business in 2018 and actually started as a social media manager, quickly decided that that was not the path I wanted to continue on, and transitioned very quickly over into copywriting. And as I was doing a lot of writing for people, I was doing launch copy. And what I started to notice is that there was a hole in the strategy component of it. And that hole was pre-launch, that people were missing out on sales and opportunity by not properly warming up their audience and talking about their product or service ahead of when they were actually trying to sell it. And so I guess almost about a year ago, I can't remember exactly, I decided to really put all of my focus over into talking about pre-launch because it combines all the things I love, which is marketing and copy and how you can use the two together to really get more out of your sales. And one of my big values is how can we make sales easier on us? Like selling is hard enough, right? Our businesses are hard enough. How can we use some of these concepts that we're going to be talking about today to actually maximize our sales?
I love that. And this is going to be so good. So can you, I know you kind of explain it, but explain a little bit more, like what is a pre-launch and why really is it important to do? I know it's about like setting people up for a launch, but like in a product-based business, where do you see this fitting in?
Well, I think it fits in beautifully. If you think about Apple's like the big one that comes to mind. Apple just doesn't just like sell one day, go, hey, we're going to sell the iPhone today. No, you know that iPhone is coming for weeks and weeks ahead of time. Seriously. Oh yeah. And I was just thinking, just scrolling on Instagram recently, and my favorite fiction author, Emily Giffin, has a book coming out. Well, I know that book is coming, right? She's actually talking about it well ahead of time. As we're recording this, the new Downton Abbey movie, just came out. Well, a few weeks ago, there was all types of advertisements, in my feed telling me about it. So this is something that's used heavily by the entertainment industry. And I think too, thinking about product-based businesses, I was thinking about Fashion Week, right? New York Fashion Week is an entire pre-launch. If you think about it, they're telling you the preview of what's to come. So this is something that people are using a lot of times in these bigger industries. And I'm trying to help pull it down into the small business of how can we use these concepts and strategies that these big people are using to our advantage. And I know that you asked, like, what is a pre-launch? It is a time period before you're actually selling something openly to the open market. And it's a time where you're kind of creating this buzz and curiosity and anticipation for what's to come.
So how long do you think a pre-launch strategy should be, like, for a holiday season, for instance? Like, let's say we're talking about a Black Friday event or something along those lines. Because I think, like, one of the things that people get nervous about is, like, if I keep touting this pre-launch, like, am I going to get sales before that? Or is it just something we're only focused on, like a big splash?
Right. Well, it depends. I think probably your Black Friday is going to be a little bit longer. I like for product-based businesses about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think you can be talking about things ahead of time, and we can talk about that a little bit more. To me, and you would know best as when this comes, I know for me personally, like, once Thanksgiving is done, like, Christmas movie are starting, like, I'm listening to Christmas music. I'm thinking, I have 3 kids, right? I'm thinking about my shopping, my budget. I want to enjoy my holidays. So I kind of feel like once that kind of Thanksgiving is over and things turn, that is probably, so I would start a little bit earlier on a Black Friday promotion than I would maybe just a normal promotion.
Right. And so that's great feedback. So you can, and I want to just reiterate, like, pre-launch is not just for holiday season. We're talking about holiday visibility right now. But more than anything, you could use a pre-launch for a new collection launch. You could use it for, like, a one-of-a-kind drop. You can use it for special sales, events, virtual trunk shows, in-person trunk shows, like all of these things. Like, anything that you're going to promote, a website launch, all those things could be used. A pre-launch strategy could be used for that. So, Brenna, what would you include in a pre-launch strategy for a jewelry company?
Right. Well, when I think about, I always go to the end game of, like, why someone buys. So I would be thinking about, like, what is some of the, is there a mission behind your brand or what you're selling, right? Is that what you're trying to get someone to think about? How do you want someone to feel? Like, what is the image that they're trying to portray? All the things that you talk about on this podcast and your program is really thinking about, like, where is that desire coming from? And so when I'm thinking through a pre-launch, I always think, okay, what's the end game? Where am I trying to move people? And what are the steps to take from to that point? Does your particular, I guess, launch, if you said, does it have to do with, is there a pain point, with some, depending on, sometimes, we will have different collections that do have a pain point or have a different purpose. So I'm going through and looking at those type of things. But I think the beauty about when it comes to a product-based business is that I think it's just a matter of really talking about your product or service, letting them know that, or not service, but your product, and letting them know that it's coming, is how I kind of approach it when it comes to I keep saying service, through a product-based business.
It's okay. We know that you help a lot of service-based businesses, and it's all good, but it's the same thing. We teach this in some of our programs, like how to pre-launch and how to tease out. We just use different words, like how to tease out what's coming. And so I want you guys to think, who are listening today, like, what are some brands? I mean, Brenna mentioned Apple, Fashion Week, like all these things. Like, start, like, scoping out, like, how they're teasing or how they're pre-launching their products or their collections and stuff like that. And then you can start to collect ideas on how to do that for yourself, right?
Definitely.
Okay, awesome. So how do you think a pre-launch helps you really get more sales? I mean, maybe that's obvious, but I just want to hear from your own.
Right. Well, I think that it just, the natural buzz and curiosity, I think talking about things longer in general, right? People I don't care if it's what you're buying, we're all thinking through, especially with, inflation, what's going on. We're thinking through our purchases before we buy them, right? We don't usually just wake up and decide to make some purchase. So we're thinking through. So as humans, like, we naturally want to be the first, right? We want exclusive access. We want something to look forward to. So you can really feed on these natural human emotions that we have. And by doing that, you're creating more awareness around your product, which can help you, it helps you naturally make more sales, because you're putting the word out there, you're extending your marketing beyond. And not that once your collection drops, right? It's kind of like, it's that you're done, where
Yep.
the anticipation is what people are really excited about, to figure out what's coming up, what's new, right? That's what we are as human, is that we always want to be the first. We want that little, dopamine hit when we get something new. And when we know that's coming, it really helps build not only awareness, but gets people talking about you and your product and getting them ready to whip out their cards the moment that you actually release whatever that is that you're dropping.
Okay, so quick question for you. This is not probably a quick question, but what kind of content would you include in a pre-launch strategy, and how would you kind of time it out?
Perfect. And one last thing I'll say that I want to mention on that last one is that it helps build, I know especially when it comes to jewelry, there is always, with any product that you're selling, there's always a price objection. And doing this creates the desire where people start to, it helps eliminate the price objection as well, which helps you sell more. So I think that was really an important thing to point out in this. But now when we could start talking about content, I think the great thing is I just started brainstorming ideas and getting ready for this podcast. And I came up with 20 just off the top of my head. So I'll give you an idea about a few of these, but first of all, I just want to say that the most important part of a pre-launch is literally to just talk what you're up to in your business. This is will put you ahead of the competition, is literally just talking about it. My friend, Chris Orzechowski, and I know you're friends with him as well, he always talks about, you're not creating content, you're documenting. And so I think the more you can document what's going on in your day-to-day business, it eliminates that content pressure of having to create. And you can just talk about what's going on. You can talk about, are you going shopping for something today? Can you ask your audience to help you choose? And this might be pre-launch a little bit, but help you choose the materials. As you said, you're teasing what's to come. You can ask for input. Ask people would you rather have the silver or the gold? Would you rather have the opal or the amber gemstone? All of these things, it's just ways of talking about what's going on. I am not, especially for service-based businesses, I am not a waitlist person, but I think a waitlist can work really beautifully on a product-based business because you're creating, maybe you create a waitlist and that they are the first people to shop a collection. Maybe, I'm not a discount person either, but maybe for this particular promotion, discounting or free shipping or something along those lines, if they're on the waitlist, if they're the first to know, maybe they're getting a gift with purchase. Maybe maybe they're getting, priority information that no one else is getting. You're creating kind of a VIP list, and once again, feeding into that human desire of wanting to be in the know and want to have information that no one else is having. I will say a caveat to that wait list is that if you are, especially if you're going 2 weeks out, is to make sure that you are keeping in touch with your people via email while they're on the wait list. You don't want to just put people on a wait list and forget and then think they're going to buy. You want to make sure that you're emailing them in between to help keep the anticipation up. Other things that you can do is just showing, once I mentioned this earlier, showing behind the scenes content. How did you make this? Getting them ready for a final reveal. I think talking about why you decided to create this collection. Is there a purpose behind it? Another thing that you can always do is possibly a contest could make sense in this. I'd like to use contests sparingly because we don't want, you just don't want to add people, but there's definitely a moment where in a pre-launch, a contest can make sense. You could get people sharing, talking about your product, use it as a way to expand your customer base. You could even talk about the challenges that you're facing while you're making the product, right? You can use that as one of, something that has gone on today. You can use personal content where you've talked about the day of what you've been up to and, what your day looked like and what you're doing on a Friday night after a long day of creating this new jewelry piece. So there's so many things. The other thing that I really love, I am a huge testimonial, social proof person in marketing, maybe you can pull up testimonials if you've created something similar to what they've done in the past and say, hey, this is what people said about this last collection or whatever your product is. And this one's going to be even better, like get ready. So I think it's just constantly talking about whatever. There's so many different angles that you can take. And I think if you think, a lot of people get nervous, like, what am I going to say? But when you just start talking about what's going on, what it looks like, the different, features, however it looks, I think that you can really expand upon your content. I also think too, is using a little bit of urgency and scarcity. If you have that in your collection, maybe you're putting them on the wait list because you're only having 10 of this particular item. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different content, but I think mostly just talking about what you're up to, the behind the scenes, building the anticipation and getting them ready so that they want to be the first people to buy whatever is coming out.
I love that. And I love the idea of a wait list, especially for like one of a kind drops, a Black Friday sale, something like that. And I have a quick question for you. Like how far out should they be sending emails? So let's say they're building this wait list starting maybe 2 to 3 weeks before. Like how many emails would you recommend? Would you do like
while they are on the wait list? I would say probably like a minimum like this. Let's say you're doing it 2 weeks out. I would probably do 2 the week before. Then I might do like 3. And these don't have to be long emails. This could just be a very quick, like, hey, this is what I'm up to. Hit reply and let me know if you think I should sell the black or the yellow first. Or are you going to, it doesn't matter. It's just a way of keeping in contact. These don't have to be long emails, but you can take the content that I just talked about as well and expand upon it. Maybe you're telling a story, a more in-depth story about why you decided to create this collection. Maybe there's something personal going on. So, but I think that you are kind of slowly going into it and then you're ramping up just like you would with any launch. And then, the day before, tomorrow's the day and, those kind of things. So I would go at it a little slow just so that you're not overwhelmed with creating this and then slowly adding anticipation and adding a little bit more content and emails around it as you get closer to the day it drops.
Yeah, I think what could be really powerful too is to make sure that you're including images of what is going to be included in the collection so people can get excited and like, here's a sneak peek of what we're gonna be dropping. Or even I think the closer it gets, like even telling them step by step what to expect and why they need to get there right away.
100%.
Yeah. So are there any other words of wisdom that you recommend for people?
Well, I just think in general, I think planning this out early is so important, and especially when it comes to the holidays, Black Friday, I think you have a true advantage when you against, your competition, because your competition probably most likely is not doing what you're doing, right? They're not talking about this early, getting people ready. And I think the other real advantage here is that most publications, I know this isn't about PR, but most publications are looking for gift guides and planning out their holiday issues in September, right?
Or even before that. Gift guides are happening earlier. They happen in like July and August. They're almost closed by the end of August.
Wow. So even so, so here's another real advantage here is that if you know what you're going to be doing over Black Friday, you're already kind of making this launch plan. You're going to be ready to get some of those PR opportunities as well, which is only going to help you sell more and help you build more, generate more buzz and anticipation of what's to come.
For sure. And I love everything that you said, especially about getting ahead of it. Because like earlier in the month, we had an episode all about pitching holiday gift guides, which I think is really important. And as we get closer to the holidays, like after September, any sort of like publication or digital magazine, a lot of them are closed for holiday sales because it's such a big shopping time. They're curating it very early. And then you're kind of just stuck with local press. Not that that's bad. That's still good. Or like more like collaborations and stuff like that. So getting ready now, even though it is the dog days of summer, this is why they call them the dog days of summer, you need to get ready for your holiday sales plan. So Brenna, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we've covered it all.
You are so efficient always. I love it. Like whenever we're talking, you're just like straight to the point. But I want to, before we go, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me at BrennaMcGowan.co. I'm always on Instagram at Brenna McGowan Co. And then too, if you're kind of like, okay, well, what are these things that I could be talking about and different angles is I have a cheat sheet that talks about pre-launch and actually breaks down the different type of content that you should be putting out. And I give you a list of the exact types of content. And you can get that at BrennaMcGowan.co /cheat sheet.
I love it. Thank you so much, Brenna. We always love having you here. I will have you back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. This is Tracy Matthews signing off until next time. And if you'd like some help growing your independent jewelry brand, make sure that you pick up my brand new book, The Desire Brand Effect. Stand out in a saturated market with a timeless jewelry brand, available at desiredbrandeffect.com and amazon.com. Ciao for now.